Each time I use my grandpa's hammer, I swing with strength and confidence. I know that even if I fail to hit the spot initially aimed for, I can swing again. Each time I use my grandpa's hammer, I think about all the little lessons he tried to instill in me. I think that all of his little lessons fit into one big principle. When he passed away, Grandpa didn't have much to leave 10 children and many grandchildren. Being a carpenter by trade, he didn't have a retirement fund. There was no nest egg to financially take care of those that were left behind. So when it was time to start packing up the house he and Grandma had shared the last decade of their lives, it was decided that everyone could pick out several small trinkets that reminded us of the love that now felt absent in our hearts. As I pulled down the drive, I could have sworn that the house was white with red trim again, as it had been for so many years. It took a mountain of courage to walk up those steps into the little house on Lilac Lane, and when I did, it felt as if I was a little boy again who looked forward to lying on the floor at Grandpa's feet watching the riflemen. I couldn't help but feel as if he would be sitting there waiting for me to quiet down so that he wouldn't have to turn his hearing aids up. Better still, maybe he would have the damned things out altogether and sitting on the table near his chair. Then we could have the volume up. We could have the volume up so loud that you could feel the lever action of the 30-30 as it clicked before shattering the silence of the neighborhood with its law-writing thunder. Instead of watching the riflemen, I walked through the house and found a couple of items of interest. There's a stuffed teddy bear that I gave to him for Christmas when I was 5, and a necklace with a cross that reminded me of his faith. And while these things had significance to me, they lacked the true spirit of my grandfather. Walking out into his shop in the garage, I thought about a project we had once worked on together. See, at the age of 16, I had wrecked a car into the back of a carriage shed. Carriage sheds are relics from a simple time when stately families stored their mode of transport in a small building behind the home. It was a stall or two for horses and one for their carriage. I had destroyed the side of a garage from the 1880s. In accordance with historical preservation, this 110-year-old garage needed to be restored to as near original as possible. The only carpenter I knew that could show me how to undo what speeding in an alley had done was Jim Winchester. After a morning of taking measurements and laughing about what a fool had done to this timepiece of Americana, Grandpa drove me to the little white home with red trim on Lilac Lane. We spent a day at the table saw as he talked to me in a manner strikingly similar to how he spoke with my uncles, the men of my family. I was now old enough to hear the lessons of men, but child enough to hear them for the first time from Grandpa. As we cut grooves in 1x8s, he told me about pride and craftsmanship. He told me that everything in life we did as men would be measured not only by how well the task was accomplished, but how hard we tried to do it right. We spent the next day tearing out 100-year-old broken boards and replacing them, while Grandpa dispensed more common sense. He compared the years to come in my life to that very carriage shed. Sometimes I would make a mess of things that needed to be rebuilt from what thoughtlessness, carelessness, or accident had torn apart. Sometimes I would have to build from scratch, and I would need a good plan to make sure that the pieces fit together and that it would be sturdy and true. Sometimes I would need to re-glue and brace what had been standing well but had aged and been left forgotten, needing just a little bit of repair to put it right. I had walked into Granddad's workshop while in a daydream about what the man meant in my life. While I stood in front of the bench and thought about what a gift my first car accident had turned out to be, I looked down. Amidst wood chips, chisels, screwdrivers, and sawdust was one of Grandpa's hammers. I picked up the tool and felt tears rolling down my face despite the smile I wore to accompany them. This one simple implement was more than a trinket. It embodied not just the memory of the man who swung it, but it resembled what he had taught me. With this hammer, I would remember the man, the carpenter who helped me set framework to build myself a life. James Paul Winchester didn't need a nest egg for his children and grandchildren. He and his wife Della had given their loved ones moral security. They left us fond memories of family gatherings around a warm table and inner strength that would last us the rest of our lives. Each time I use Grandpa's hammer, I'll be building a better life for myself.